Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Talk of the Town podcast. If you like the video you see here today, make sure to hit that subscribe button for me. We're on the road to 100 subscribers. We're currently at 85 at the time of recording this, so we're almost there. Every time I log on, there's a new subscriber every day. Thank you guys so much. It helps support the channel a ton. As I said, we're on the road to 100 subscribers. So if you like this video, or you go back and you watch another video, or any videos you like at all, please hit that like button and that subscribe button for me. It means the world to me. And yeah, let's get into the video today. First thing I want to talk about today is the Giants hype worth buying into coming into this season. There's a lot of hype surrounding the Giants here in 2025. That's not something I thought I'd say at all coming into this year, to be honest with you. Even, God, a month ago, I wouldn't even have said it at all. Giants had not had hype for a long time. Maybe the last time they did was when they had Saquon Barkley, or when they drafted Saquon Barkley. That's what I mean. In the draft, that was about it. And the Odell Beckham days, I mean, long time ago. It's been a long time since the Giants have had any hype form going into a regular season. I guess maybe the last time you could maybe say is a couple of years ago, the year after they made the playoffs, where people actually thought, okay, this Giants team might be decent. But they weren't. They went right back to earth after that year. So this is the first year in a long time it's felt like the Giants have actually had any hope going into the season, to be completely honest with you. Between having a young quarterback, and even just besides Jackson Dart, having Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston and Abdul Carter and Malik Neighbors. I mean, they have some seriously good young players. Dexter Lawrence isn't necessarily seen as a young player, but, you know, he's in his prime. He's a great pass rusher. So they definitely have the talent there. Brian Burns. You kind of wonder if the Giants are near a quarterback away, depending whether Jackson Dart works out or not, or how we'll see whether or not Russell Wilson ends up playing the whole season or not. If Russell Wilson, he does, and he ends up kind of showing flashbacks of his older self, can Russell Wilson maybe bring them to a playoff win or two this offseason? Or, excuse me, not this offseason, but this season? You know, we'll see. The problem is with the Giants, and what's hard to buy the hype with the Giants, is they have a juggernaut of a schedule. And one thing I have to remember with players like Abdul Carter, maybe not necessarily Malik Neighbors as much because he played so good in his rookie year, is Jackson Dart and Abdul Carter. While Abdul Carter could end up being a great rookie is a lot different than having a great defensive player of the year caliber season. He still needs a year to get used to the NFL, and the same goes with Jackson Dart. I definitely do not think Jackson Dart's going to have a Jane Daniels or CJ Stroud season. I will bet the farm on that. I really don't think he will. I don't think he's nearly as talented as those two quarterbacks at all. Again, a couple preseason games, I get it. The Giants had been begging to have some sort of relevancy at quarterback, some hope, something, and I completely get it. Jackson Dart has definitely shown that the last couple of weeks in the preseason, but I'm not fully buying into the hype off of a couple of decent preseason games. No way. Then you look at the top five. I've seen the top five list. I wish I had the list up on my phone because I'd read it off, but if you want to, make sure to go look it up yourself. The passing touchdowns leaders, the passing yards leaders, the receiving yards, like, I hate to say it, but it's really just a bunch of guys in the NFL who wouldn't even be number 4s on most rosters. They'll end up making their rosters, but the quarterbacks especially are just, you know, they're going to pan out to just not have a serious NFL career. They may just be career backups, which, again, there's nothing wrong with that. That's one of the best jobs in the entire universe. You carry the clipboard around and make millions of dollars. That is definitely not a bad job to have. So I'm not getting on their job, but I'm just saying I don't read too much into the preseason hype. I mean, certain teams like, I guess I could say Atlanta. I think Atlanta went 0-3 in the preseason. Detroit didn't look great in the preseason, but is Detroit going to be bad in the regular season? Absolutely not. So that's when you see Jackson Dart is great in the preseason. Does that mean he's going to be great in the regular season? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, he was drafted in the first round for a reason. I understand. He was a late bloomer in the draft. He was kind of always seen as, okay, this guy might be a day 2 guy. He'd probably end up going in the second or third round. That's what Jackson Dart feels like. And there's a ton of second and third, fourth, fifth round quarterbacks that have panned out in the NFL. So it's not saying that he can't make it just because he was supposed to be a second or third round quarterback a month or two before he was drafted, and then he was a late bloomer. So, not saying his career can't work out because of that, but I'm always concerned with late bloomers. Zach Wilson is a massive one that I call it from the jump. When Zach Wilson they were debating, or there was a little bit of a debate there of the Jaguars taking Zach Wilson over Trevor Lawrence. And I was that was never really a reality, but there was talks about it. And I was like, you guys can't be serious. Even though Trevor Lawrence's career hasn't quite panned out like it was supposed to this point, it could absolutely turn around. This is a big year for him. So we'll see what he does under that pressure. And with a pretty decent team around him, Jacksonville has actually a pretty decent squad. But, I mean, I'm not saying Jackson Dart is going to be as bad as Zach Wilson, but Zach Wilson's an all-time bust, all time. I'm not saying that, but Zach Wilson's an example of a late bloomer of just extreme arm talent. They both kind of had that same pretty boy kind of thing working for him, to be honest with you. Like, kind of, I don't know. I mean, you look at him and they had the long flowing hair and stuff. That typical what two New York quarterbacks want to put as the face of their organization right there is Zach Wilson and Jackson Dart. So I feel better about the Giants going into this season. I do. I definitely feel better than I did a few weeks ago, but I'm not all in on the hype. I'm not in, oh my God, the Giants are going to make the playoffs. Look at their schedule. And Jackson Dart, I'd like to see him throw with TJ Watt on the pass rush and him throwing in coverage to Jalen Ramsey and Joey Porter Jr., whoever, like, instead of the Patriots' third string cornerbacks, Marcellus Dial or whoever. I would like to see that first before I really start calling Jackson Dart an NFL quality starter. So we've seen plenty of players in the preseason who are like, dude, this guy's just dominating. And they get in the regular season and it just completely implodes. I hope that doesn't happen. But, I mean, I remember last year, Caleb Williams, his first drive, they were saying, all right, the dude's already Pat Mahomes. Look at him out here with these crazy throws. I mean, he was making some ridiculous-looking throws. He won the regular season. The first game of the year, I think they played against Tennessee, and the offense was just completely mute. He didn't look anything like an NFL quarterback. Again, it was his first game, but I guarantee you Jackson Dart's first game he's not going to look as comfortable in there as he does in the preseason. I can guarantee it is like that almost every time. Unless you are Jane Daniels or C.J. Stroud. And even then, I remember watching C.J. Stroud's first game as a rookie. They played against Baltimore because, again, I have every Baltimore game on here. We are residents here, or we live about 20, 25 minutes away from the city. My house is full of Ravens fans except for me. So every Ravens game is on every single week. And I watched that game, and C.J. Stroud looked like a mess. He did. He did not look poised back there at all, just kind of not very good throws. I mean, I said this in C.J. Stroud's rookie year as well, and I remember saying it. I said, dude, are the Texans even going to win a game? They ended up going like 10-7 and making the playoffs, and Stroud had one of the greatest rookie years. So it can all turn around, but Jackson Dart in his first couple games is not going to look like he did in the preseason at all. At all. I remember Jane Daniels, his rookie game last year against Tampa. I watched that game. He didn't look anything like he did in week 6. It's not whether or not they put him in week 10. If he starts in week 10, you might as well call the season shot. His first 2 or 3 games are going to be he's not going to look like he will later on in the season. He's not going to look poised or anything. So I'm not buying into the hype at all with the Giants. But that's not saying that the Giants now have a future in place. And they definitely have building blocks and good players. So there's definitely hype for the future. But in terms of this season, I'm not. The hype of the Giants is not there this season. The future, absolutely. It's actually, there's a beam of light starting to shine over the New York Giants organization, which has not been there for a long time. So next thing I want to talk about is the Raiders signing Amari Cooper. He signed a 1-year, $3.5 million deal. I said I've been saying I actually thought he was going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. I thought the Steelers would be all over that. I guess not. Maybe they were and it didn't work out. Or maybe they seen the Commanders re-sign Terry McLaurin. And the Steelers have supposedly been trying to get Terry McLaurin, and they seen the Commanders re-sign him, and the Raiders like, okay, we know Amari Cooper is going to go to the Steelers. Excuse me, to the Steelers. We need to go snag him. And supposedly Jacoby Myers requested a trade. I've seen an article on that this morning. Whether or not how true that is, I'm going to do a little more research. So take that with a grain of salt. But you can't go wrong, even if they keep Jacoby Myers with Brock Bowers and Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper may not be what he was 2-3 years ago, but, I mean, it was kind of weird last year in Buffalo and Cleveland. He had a lot of really bad drops in Cleveland last year. He didn't really show much in Buffalo. I honestly kind of forgot he was in Buffalo for a while, to be honest with you. I think we all did. He really didn't show any signs of life in Buffalo. He had some decent moments, but you can tell they were pretty quick to get rid of Amari Cooper. They didn't really care. So while he may not be what Amari Cooper was a few years ago, he's going to be a guy who can make plays for you. He's if you're expecting him to be your number one wide receiver, he's probably going to disappoint. But with Bowers and Jacoby Myers having his 1,000-yard season, showing he can be a good receiver, he can be the third receiver in that room, counting tight end. So he'd be the third behind Myers and Brock Bowers probably, but got to worry about Genty in the backfield. I think Amari Cooper is definitely going to thrive a little more in that offense for sure. I mean, I could see him maybe pulling another decent year. I think that's a pretty good signing for the Raiders. The Raiders have a very good offense. I'm actually pretty surprised. I think this team could maybe be competing for a playoff spot at the end of the year. Maybe. Their division is so tough. If they were in the AFC South, I'd be honest with you, I'd take the Raiders to win the AFC South. Maybe them or the Texans, but I look the Raiders more than Jacksonville. I mean, honestly, I do like the Raiders more than Jacksonville, but the AFC South is a joke. I mean, I like Jacksonville way more than I do Indianapolis and Tennessee, and I like Las Vegas more than I do Jacksonville. And honestly, they kind of feel closer to Houston than I think most people would say. So it's just the reason why the Raiders are just probably not going to make the playoffs is they have to play 6 games a year against the Chiefs, the Chargers, and the Broncos. And honestly, I think all 3 of those teams, maybe the Chargers are kind of, I don't know. I don't know how to feel. I need to see them play in the regular season first. For now, I'm going to say they're better than Las Vegas, but I could maybe see the Chargers kind of imploding. I don't know. It's kind of some weird vibes going into this season for the Chargers, to be honest with you. I think them losing, what's his name, Rashawn Slater, I think that's really going to hurt them. I think people know that's going to hurt them, but I love Joe Alt, and they have other pretty good linemen, but I'm a little concerned with the Chargers. I could maybe see the Raiders finishing over the Chargers. The AFC West is going to be a bloodbath, to be completely honest with you. So we'll see with that, but I think the Raiders signing Amari Cooper is actually a really, really good signing for this team. Gives them a little extra oomph on the offensive side of the ball, which I really like, which I think they already had. One of their strong suits we know was already their offense. Adding Amari Cooper doesn't hurt at all. So that's a good thing for them, for sure. On such a cheap deal, $3.5 million for a year, you can't beat it at all. I think any team would take Amari Cooper for that. That makes you wonder, like, why was he out there so long? Is there something we don't know of or something? That's just crazy why no one would sign him for $3.5 million for a year. I think every single team, I don't care who you are, sounds like Kansas City wasn't pouncing on that, to be honest with you. Next thing I want to talk about is Terry McLaurin re-signing with the Commanders. I just talked about that. It is about time. I was debating on making a separate video for this, but I kind of figured I'd throw it in with this. There's a lot of signings and cuts. We're going to see a lot of cuts coming up the upcoming days, today especially. McLaurin resigning with the Commanders was huge. I said I've always had a feeling he was going to resign with the Commanders. I couldn't see him in a Steelers jersey. I couldn't see him in another jersey. Usually these players holding out is kind of working out for him, especially the Commanders. They can't afford to lose Terry McLaurin. They can't. The team's reputation, they were actually starting to build a good rep for the first time in a long time, probably since, honestly, RG3. And even then, they destroyed RG3's career. So they they have not had a good reputation in a long, long time in that organization. And they were finally starting to build some credibility. And if you were to lose Terry McLaurin because you're cheaping out, it would have all just been out the window. And honestly, your season would have suffered from it. I think the Commander season seriously would have suffered from losing Terry McLaurin, because him and Debo, I think, are going to be an extremely good duo. I think them signing McLaurin probably wins them 2 or 3 more games, to be completely honest with you. He was absolutely massive for Jane Daniels' development. We all know that. Everyone knows that. Even the owners know it. That's why they re-signed him. If Terry McLaurin was not there last year, that team is not in the NFC Championship. Jane Daniels is probably still shows a lot of promise and is still a good quarterback, but we're not talking about him as the greatest rookie season ever, to be honest with you. McLaurin made a ton of crazy clutch catches, clutch plays, really dug him out of some holes, was a big-time bailout target for Jane Daniels. That's massive. And I like Zach Ertz being there. Even though he's older, he's always a reliable target. He's not what he was, 5-6 years ago, however long now, but he's always a reliable target. They have good targets on offense. I really like what they're doing. Them re-signing McLaurin was massive, not only for Jane Daniels, not for the team's record, but for the organization's reputation. That was absolutely massive. They needed that. This organization needed that. That brought a lot of their fans saying, okay, I can trust the ownership in this organization, which is absolutely what they needed. Because if they were to lose that, especially on top of them, they're getting a new stadium in a couple of years. I mean, you have to keep your fan base positive, because if you're building a new stadium, you get a new stadium, and your team sucks now, and Jane Daniels is requesting a trade 2 years from now, and Terry McLaurin was the start of it all, and he goes, imagine they traded McLaurin to the Steelers, he goes for 1,400 yards, or it's pretty consistent around 12, we'll call it 1,200 yards, 8 or 9 touchdowns, and they go on to win 12 games, and Aaron Rodgers kind of has a resurgence for his last year because of McLaurin. Him and Metcalf go on to be a great duo. That would really suck. And the Commanders were to be 7-10 or 8-9, which I could see them probably finishing without McLaurin. And they missed the playoffs after all of this talk about them really taking that next step forward. Yeah, massive. I think we realize, a lot of people do realize how massive of a signing this is, which is nice, because it's good for the organization for sure. So I'm glad they re-signed him. I think that is massive. That gives them 3 more wins. Again, like I said, they just went from 8-9, maybe 7-10 to maybe 9-8 without him, to you could win 10, 11, 12 games, which is where a lot of people have him finishing, is around 11-6. And that's with McLaurin. That's the difference he makes, especially for Jane Daniels. So good for them. Good for them. Next, I want to talk about the Browns trading Kenny Pickett. And as a whole, it means nothing. Kenny Pickett, even if he played, would have sucked for the Browns. So in terms of losing a player that is meaningful for your team, like, I'm not trying to make it sound like, he's absolutely nothing. But in terms of having any meaning towards winning or anything, Kenny Pickett meant absolutely nothing for that, to be honest with you. And they did get their 5th round pick back. Let me see. Browns trade Pickett for 2026 5th. Yep. So they did get their 5th round pick back, at least. But even still, that was just a complete waste. And all that did was just completely make your organization look like a joke, even more of a joke. Sorry, Browns fans, but it's true. The Browns have been considered a bad organization for my entire lifetime, and probably even longer than that, to be honest with you. At least from what I know, it's longer than that. I mean, Jesus, it seems like they have a new quarterback every single year. They can't get that position right at all, which it's hard, and they're not the only organization that can't get the quarterback position right, but they're infamous for it. They can't do it. They literally can't do it. And they fumbled the one opportunity they had with Baker Mayfield is completely fumbled. I mean, you're telling me right now, even I think Baker over Shedeur Sanders easily. I think all of us would. Passing touchdowns later this year, won you a playoff game, you were easily shipped them off for Deshaun Watson like it was nothing. And look where that's gotten you. Absolutely nowhere. It's just set your organization back. It has absolutely set them back. They lost a ton of 1st round picks. You're completely in just salary cap hell. it is a disaster. The whole thing is a disaster for the Browns. Seems like they're finally starting to kind of get out of it, but now they're left with Dylan Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders, and Joe Flacco. We know, obviously, they announced Joe Flacco starting for the team, but one thing I like, though, is that they did end up getting rid of Pickett instead of keeping him, and now you have Pickett, Gabriel, Watson. Watson's not going to play a game. Honestly, I really don't think we'll ever see Deshaun Watson play another football game again. I seen a post earlier this morning about the Browns quarterback depth, and it showed Gabriel, Flacco, and Sanders. And someone was like, well, where's Watson at? I was thinking, bro, Watson's honestly probably never going to play another football game ever again, especially for Cleveland. I literally don't think he's ever going to play another game for Cleveland. They have Joe Flacco, who they revere there in Cleveland. They revere Joe Flacco there. Gabriel, who honestly, I'd play over Deshaun Watson. At least show me what you got. We drafted you in the third round. Show me what you have. At least there's some hope there with Dylan Gabriel. Shedeur Sanders, obviously, there's some sort of hope there. He's not a fifth-round talent. They took him in the fifth round. We all know he's not a fifth-round talent. He was a first-round talent, had potential to be the second overall pick. We all know what happened there. But Pickett, there's no chance. Deshaun Watson, there was no chance. Tyler Huntley, there was no chance. I'm glad they shipped those players off. Well, I guess Watson's not shipped off, but he's never going to play there ever again. We know that. They played Flacco for the next 4 seasons and have him be 45 years old before they stuck him in there for another game. Because he's terrible when he plays. I could understand maybe if Watson was showing his previous self from 4 or 5 years ago. Okay, there's legitimate hope in this guy, and when he plays, he actually plays extremely well. He just keeps getting hurt. Even when he plays, he is terrible. He's probably the worst starting quarterback in the NFL when he plays. Seriously, he's that bad. He is absolutely awful when he plays. So I don't think there's any chance he ever plays in a Cleveland Browns jersey or another jersey ever again. I think we've seen the last of him. So them trading Pickett, at least they got their pick back, but it was a waste, and it just made him look like a joke. It did. That trade did nothing for the team but make them just look even worse. To be completely honest, I think we can all agree on that. There was no chance Pickett was ever going to play or start or anything, and clearly they had no intentions of that ever playing him or starting him, ever. Because he just shipped him off to the Raiders. They just shipped him off for nothing, pretty much. They just got their pick back. They had no intentions of him ever playing. So, if anything, that means Shedeur Sanders is I'm 99% sure he's going to make the roster now. I just talked about yesterday what would happen if you were to get cut. It's not looking like that's going to happen. I doubt they cut him and just keep Flacco, Gabriel, and Watson, who's not even going to be able to play for a while because he's still hurt. So, yeah, it's looking like now. I'm curious to see where Sanders and Gabriel are going to fall on the depth chart. Who are they going to make the 2 and the 3? We'll see. I'm curious. I really want to see people's opinions on that. We're going to see a lot on that. I'll probably end up even talking about that. I know people are probably sick and tired of hearing about Shedeur Sanders, and I completely understand, but he makes the media. He makes the news, and honestly, he loves it. And he puts himself in or not necessarily saying he put himself in the situation. I'm not saying that at all, but he's in the situation. Let me word it better. He's in the situation, and the situation's a mess, and people are going to talk about it. He's Deion Sanders' son, so yeah, he's not only is he seen as an athlete, he's seen as a celebrity as well. So that puts him more in there, even more. To be completely honest with you, while Dylan Gabriel's a pro athlete, he's not a celebrity. People don't see him as a celebrity. I guess you could technically call him one since he's famous, but you know what I mean. Next, I'm talking about, Trey Hendrickson. We're finally signing with the Bengals. He got a $14 million pay raise for this season. Excuse me, I had to itch my eye. I don't know why, man. My eyes have been so itchy. It's been crazy. I got a dog about, I guess, probably 7 months ago at this point, and I'm allergic to dogs, but I've gotten used to her a little more. And she's a wiener dog, by the way, anyone who's wondering. But I've gotten used to her, so I don't really get bothered by it as much anymore as when I first got her, or just when I'd be around the dog at all. It would make my eyes swell up so bad. But every now and then, I kind of my eyes just get a little itchy, so it's kind of what's happening right now. But Trey Hendrickson re-signing with the Bengals. He got a $14 million pay raise. That's massive for this team. The defense was absolutely depleted. He was really your only serious pass rusher. Sam Hubbard retired. Shamar Stewart is a rookie. We do not know how good he's going to be in the NFL, so I'm not going to sit there and say, well, they have Shamar Stewart. He's an elite pass rusher, because he's not. He may be. He may end up being one, absolutely. Clearly has the measurables and the talent to do so. He didn't necessarily have the production in college, which is always worrisome to me. I always get worried about players in college who don't put up the stats, but they take them with their measurables and their strength. And it is worrisome, because can't produce in college. What makes you think they're going to produce in the NFL? I know that they want those guys, or they think that the pros can really pump them up and turn them into something. And it happens. It absolutely happens. It's happened before, but the risk is big. So I'm not necessarily going to say Shamar Stewart. If they didn't resign Trey Hendrickson, I'd say they had a suitable replacement for him, because we do not know. But them keeping Trey Hendrickson, which I thought he was going to get traded, I'm pretty surprised they ended up keeping him. I'm kind of surprised he stayed for a year on a $14 million pay raise. I think he could have gotten traded and actually got a long extension, but maybe not, because I know teams were calling Cincinnati. Now, whether or not they were to get a first-round pick or not, or the picks they wanted, we don't know. But I'm sure someone would have extended for Trey Hendrickson. The only thing that worries me with him is his age, and he's always been a good pass rusher. He's always been a good pass rusher, but he kind of had an outlier year last year on a really terrible defense. So I really hope he can still keep up on that pace, and people will be like, dang, now I'm glad they didn't extend him, or extend him for the long term, because if he falls off this year, that's really going to suck. And that's going to suck for the production of the Bengals, because, man, their defense needs every ounce of juice they can get out of anybody, to be completely honest with you. They really do. So that's good for the Bengals. That definitely makes you feel a little better about the Bengals. Could that put another win on their schedule? Yeah, it could. Very well could. He's a game changer. He can be a game wrecker back there. So it could definitely make a change for them in the standings, for sure. Which, if he weren't there, it would make a change in the standings for them, him not being there. So, and him being there makes a change in the standings for sure. Probably puts another win or two on their schedule for certain. So good for them. But that means now they're going to be competing with my Patriots for that wild card spot. I definitely do not think they're going to win the division over Baltimore. I think we all kind of know that. Baltimore definitely feels like the better team overall. They played good against the Bengals the last couple of times they played them. They played really good against Cincinnati. Even in the offensive shootouts, they have just played amazing. But Joe Burrow has very, very good games against Baltimore. There's no doubt about that. Pittsburgh's going to be in that mix. So I think it'll be between Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. AFC's very competitive. There's going to be some really good teams who don't make the playoffs. I'm just going to say that there's going to be some very good teams who don't make the playoffs this year. That's for sure. The AFC is so competitive. So the Bengals, I think they realize that. They needed to resign him. They needed to, or honestly, I don't think the Bengals would have made the playoffs without Trey Hendrickson. Now, whether or so they do with him is still up in the air, but that definitely puts them more in the conversation. I don't think they're winning the division, but they're definitely competing now for that playoff spot. We'll see who gets it. Last thing I want to talk about today, it's not necessarily a sports topic, but it's kind of a business idea for me. I had my first college course this morning. It's an intro to business class. Now, I took it in college before, but I kind of took a break and everything. I mentioned that in my first episode of the podcast, literally my first ever episode of my podcast. I took a break for a little while. I was just really burnt out from school. I was kind of just a person who just kind of did, honestly, the bare minimum to get by. Now, that's not saying that I was dumb or anything, because I definitely am not. I'm not hyping myself up, but I'm just saying, I think sometimes school smarts can be a little overrated in terms of high school, not a college degree. I'm not saying that in terms of a college degree, but in terms of high school and stuff, you really just have to turn in the work. And I know that sounds simple, but I was kind of an ass in high school sometimes. So definitely could have been. Didn't take it as serious as I should have. But of course I ended up passing it and getting a high school diploma and all, but never failed or anything like that. But, I guess I had other priorities, but I've learned from that as I've gotten older. I'm 21 years old now, so I've definitely learned as I've gotten older. I'm definitely taking school so much more serious. how important it is. And I have a serious passion to learn about the business world. I love it. And I want to learn about business on here, because what I'm talking about here is I have a business idea called Caster. So podcast Caster. One of the things I've always wanted to do was be on, or I guess a dream of mine is be on Colin Cowherd. He has something called The Volume, and it's a bunch of podcasts and everything, sports podcasts, anything. It ranges from any sort of podcast that is that it just has a bunch of shows. You go on, you kind of click on it. I'd like to have something called Caster, kind of have it be the Netflix of pod, or yeah, the Netflix of podcasts. You get what I'm saying. I may not be wording it right, but if I am, I am. You get what I'm saying. I'd love to have that somehow, and that's why I really want to take these business classes, because I really want to learn how to really start a business. And I guess this is kind of the start of a business for me, is the podcast. I'm really trying to learn of how to promote and everything. It is starting a business, starting your own brand, starting your own everything. I am kind of starting my own business here on the podcast. I'm always learning to how to start things and everything. I had an idea yesterday I presented to my parents, and I'll probably mention it to my friends today, of promoting your business. And I'd like to do like an annual basketball tournament, maybe there's a place called Sawmill, or anywhere, whether it's indoors at a local gym or whatever, rec center, and do where if you want to register your roster, the money just goes to charity, and it promotes the Talk of the Town podcast and charity and stuff like that. Really gets my name out there. It's for a good cause. And the winning roster, I mean, guess what goes out of my pocket? Be $500 or whatever. Again, that's each player gets $100. Go out for the day. You register your team for whatever. The registration money, of course, goes to the charity of whatever charity it is I decide to do. I'd like to do an annual one of those. Gets my podcast out there. It's all about promoting yourself. And I think promoting yourself in amazing ways, instead of scamming or whatever it is, going out there and have an annual basketball tournament, getting people to be able to do something we all can enjoy. That's something I enjoy doing. So yeah, I'd love to do something like that. Really get the name out there. And that's the thing with businesses. I'd love to learn how to really sell my product, stuff like that. In terms of Caster, that's an idea I'm going to have for a long time. And I'm like, you know what? I've got to build some sort of credibility for myself. And that's in terms of starting a podcast, really growing my name, and then starting something like that and having it to be where you can go on your TV. It's called Caster. People have their own sports shows, sports shows, an example, talks, anything. You go on your TV, you log it right on, boom, Caster, it's all there. I signed those people. Again, I don't know quite the specifics. That's why I'm taking business classes, getting a business degree and everything, is to really learn the metrics and really learn everything that goes into that. So again, when you hit that subscribe button, man, that's closer to getting to that dream, to that goal of having annual basketball tournaments, which I probably do anyway. I think I kind of want to try that next year. I think that'd be a really fun idea, and I could definitely get a lot of people to do it. We actually posted a short clip on that today, saying about whether people would like that or not, about promoting your business and stuff, or promoting my business, and kind of just getting out there a little bit. But yeah, that's kind of what I have. It's called Caster. Hey, I want to talk about it today because, like I said, I started my intro to business class. I took that a few years ago, flunked it, of course, because I was just burnt out from school. And again, I think I'm completely real and honest with you guys on this podcast. I'm not a perfect person at all. And anyone who watches this, a lot of people feel like anymore, you're held to a certain standard. You feel like you have to be perfect, and nobody is. I'm not. I made a ton of mistakes. I had an absolute ton. I can't tell you how much money I've wasted for my parents and everything, flunking college courses when I did it a few years ago. It made me feel like a complete asshole, to be honest with you. But I've learned from it, and it's just to show you I'm not perfect at all. So I want you guys to know that no matter what you're doing or anything, you guys can absolutely do it. Do not get down on yourselves at all, because it's easy to do that, but there's so much life to live, and to be able to chase your dreams and do anything you want is always there. Do not ever talk yourself out of doing anything. I say it all the time, and my dad's told me before, you can talk yourself out of doing literally anything in life. You can talk yourself out of doing anything. So you got to talk yourself into doing it, and do not get down on yourself. So yeah, that's it for today's episode. Everyone enjoyed the podcast today. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit that like button, And if you do not agree with any of my takes, make sure to leave it down in the comments below what you don't agree with. I'd love to hear your guys' takes and opinions. Make sure to hit that subscribe button for me as we're on the road to 100 subscribers. And everyone have a great Tuesday.